Hey everyone, so this will be a very basic video on how to set up a betta tank, or this can also be applied to other freshwater tanks as well. But I'm going to be setting up a betta tank here. This is going to be the Top Fin Enchant 3.5 gallon tank from PetSmart. This tank, if you guys are interested in it, is normally like 32 bucks. I actually got mine on sale for only 20 bucks, so I couldn't pass it up. So I'm going to go through the basics of setting up a fish tank in the noobish way I can. Noobishy way I can. So in the simplest way that I can here. And hopefully this will all make sense to even the beginners. So this tank is actually going to be 3.5 gallons. It is like a half moon. So you have a flat back and then the front bowls out. It can also be called like a bow front. Very similar tanks. Designs. Alright, so again, this is a 3.5 gallon tank. For a betta, I would highly recommend you do not get anything below 2.5 gallons. Reason for that is anything below that is going to be hard to have enough room for the heater, and filter, and decorations, and still room for your betta to swim around. Because despite what some people may think, bettas are actually very active fish, and they really do need room to swim around. I mean, some people will put them in smaller tanks and that, but I'd highly recommend you get at least a 2.5 gallon tank, and of course, the bigger the better. Alright, so for setup, the first things you want to do is make sure you have your tank where you're going to be wanting it to be. Reason for this is a gallon of water is over 8 pounds. So if you have a 3 gallon tank, you're talking over 24 pounds in water alone. Then you add in, say, 5 pounds of gravel, add in decorations and whatnot. Small tanks, even like this 3.5 gallon here, can weigh 30-40 pounds, and you just don't really want to be moving it around. So you want to make sure you put it before you even set up anything where it's going to be for to stay, where it's going to be staying. Otherwise, it's just a big pain to move around. And two, if you do set it up all the way, fill up the water, decoration, everything, and you go to move it, it could actually bust the bottom of the tank, and then you have water everywhere, and that's just not fun. So first thing first is make sure you have it where you want it to be. And on top of that, make sure where it's going to be is sturdy. Make sure that you put it on something that can actually take the weight. Again, it's going to be decently heavy. So don't want to put your tank on something flimsy and then have it fall over or break your table or whatever you put it on, and then again have water everywhere. So make sure where you put it is going to be stable, and it's where it's going to be to stay before you even start setting it up. Next thing you want to do is they highly recommend rinsing out the tank. That will get rid of debris, dust, and whatnot. And then also rinse out anything you're going to be putting in the tank. So decorations, your filter, your heater, all that stuff. And then you also want to rinse out the filter cartridge. This one comes with two of these. So this is your basic filter cartridge. What it is, it has filter floss on the outside. And then on the inside is charcoal or carbon. And then some tanks will have, you'll also have biological filter. This one does not have it. A lot of the smaller tanks do not actually have biological filters unless you buy the more expensive brands like Flugel or something like that. But most top fin tanks like I have here do not have the biological filter. So you have your filter floss. I'll show you again. So you have your filter floss, which helps to remove uneaten food, poop, stuff like that. And you have your carbon on the inside, which helps remove chemicals, discolorations, things down of those nature. And then the biological will help set up your good bacteria and whatnot. And then that also helps to like remove ammonia and stuff like that. Alright, so once you have the tank where you want it to be and you rinsed off everything, you can start setting up the tank itself here. So the thing I would recommend doing is putting the filter in where it's going to be, put a heater in where it's going to be. Bettas will need a heater if your room or wherever it is gets too cold, especially like here. I'm in Illinois. Wintertime it gets negative something degrees Fahrenheit outside. So during wintertime I will have a heater in there. Right now it's summer. It's like, I don't know how hot it is outside right now, but it's like 80 degrees in my room. I have no need for a heater right now. Heater will not do anything besides take up some real estate in the tank. But when it gets cold, make sure you do have a heater. Bettas need it to be in the upper 70s. They are tropical fish, So make sure you do have a heater for your betta. That is an essential. Again, unless your room is all the time like in the 80s or something, upper 70s, then you should be okay. But highly recommend getting a heater. Yeah, so make sure you put your filter where it's going to be, your heater where it's going to be. And I would recommend taking whatever you're going to be putting in the tank and putting it in the tank now. I'm going to actually remove my filter. That way it gets out of the way. So I just have a few decorations here from my betta's old tank that I just took down. And I'm just going to try and kind of put it where I think it should go. So good thing to have is like a cave. Some bettas will use them, some won't. Some will go in and sleep in them. Some will just swim in and out of them. But caves are always a good thing to have. Mine has a face on it. It's like a little mountainside. If you want to be doing plants, live is going to be the best if you can keep them alive. I'm not always best at keeping plants alive. And some plants do need more light, do need CO2 and stuff like that. So if you get live plants, make sure you're getting basic live plants that do not need strong lighting or CO2. I'm going to be using fake plants here. If you use fake, make sure they are not sharp and pointy. This is nice. This is a higher end, higher quality plastic. The best is even silk. Show you here in a second. This one I'm not going to be using in this tank because it's way too big. But silk, they're super, silky. So they will not hurt your fish. The reason why you do not want something pointy and cheap plastic, pointy stuff, not like this, but like, I don't even have anything like that anymore, is it can actually hurt your fish and it can actually poke out eyes. It can do really bad things. So make sure if you get fake plants, get something that's not going to, if it doesn't hurt you. If it pokes into their eye or something, it's not going to like poke out their eye. So make sure you get something of higher quality plants. Again, recommend silk if you do fake plants. Otherwise, live are always good too, as they shouldn't be hurting your fish. And too, if you get live plants, it can help filter your tank a little bit as well. Plants remove CO2 and inject, for lack of a better word, O2 or oxygen. So, all right, then put in your, I should have said this already, but when you put in gravel, make sure you rinse it out. Otherwise, you will for sure, most gravels will have dust and other debris in it. And if you do not rinse out your gravel first, you will get very cloudy looking water. The cloudy water will go away over time, but it is a big pain in the butt, and it might take a couple of weeks even, depending on how dirty the gravel was. In my paludarium, I bought this red flint stone, I think that's what it was, something like that. It's supposed to be really good for live plants, but when I rinsed it out, it was like the rocks were bleeding. That's how thick or how red the water was. So if I did not rinse it out, the entire tank's water would have been red and nasty. So make sure you rinse out your gravel for sure. Make sure you rinse it out nice and well. Otherwise, it will make your tank all dusty and cloudy looking, which is not a good sight. Again, it will go away with a filter. It just will take some time. Then I also would put in the gravel first. I totally blanked on that one because I already did it before I started up this video. Then you can position in your plants and your ornaments, your decorations, whatever. I'm not going to go too crazy with this. I'm just going to put in two of the same plants here, and then a decoration. My betta is super active, and she just swims around on the front of the tank most of the time. So, and again, I keep on saying this, but rinse out your plants as well. Now, if you do get live plants, I would check them over for snails. A lot of live plants will have little snails on them, and those are snails you do not want because they will reproduce, and they will not stop reproducing until your entire tank is just full of snails, and they are such a pain in the butt to get rid of. So if you do get live plants, check them over for snails, and also check them over for dying limbs and stuff like that, and take off the dying parts. Otherwise, you'll have organic matter, dead organic matter in your tank, which isn't fun, which can lead to other bad things like more algae and stuff like that. Yeah, so if you rinse everything out, put it all where you think you're gonna want it. Of course, you can move it around later. I just think it's easier without water in the tank already to put in your decorations and whatnot. So again, I'm just gonna keep it like this. Maybe later on I'll put more in here, but I think this actually looks pretty good. And before we continue on here, I would like to talk about filters real fast. So bettas are not usually the best of swimmers. The longer the fin betta, usually the worse swimmer they are. My parents have a long finned half moon or double tail betta, and they have him in a 5-gallon tank. And well, he's not a very good swimmer. I'll just put it that way. So if you have a longer fin betta, make sure you get a filter that's not too strong for him. And actually that goes for any betta in general. But generally, a shorter fin betta is going to be a stronger swimmer than a long fin betta. But all bettas are, again, not the best of swimmers. So you want to make sure your filter is not going to be too strong for them. Now, a lot of kits like this top fin one here are okay for them. It used to be that I found in my own buyings of tanks over the years, is that it used to be these small tanks would have too strong of a filter, especially if you got something that was like a 1-gallon tank. The filter would just push the betta around. Brands are getting better with that, I will say. Top Fin now has a special filter that they make and they put into some of their tanks that's supposed to be super. It's not supposed to push the betta around like at all, and it doesn't. So yeah, just be careful that your filter is not pushing your betta around. And if you are setting up a tank from scratch, so say you go to Petco and you get the $1 per gallon sale, and you get like a 5-gallon tank, and then you add in your own own filter. Again, make sure it's not too strong for your betta. And you gotta remember that bettas do come up to the top of the surface to breathe actual air, surface air. So again, make sure your betta's not getting pushed around. Hopefully that made some sense in my rambling there. Alright, and then once you have the tank all set up, everything's been rinsed out, it looks good, you have it in a spot where you want it to be. Next thing is to add in water, of course. So water, this is another good topic that a lot of people I don't think when you're noob to the fish keeping, is that your water does matter. Different towns, different cities, whatever, have their tap water is going to be different from other towns and cities and stuff like that. So I would get your water treated, get your water checked to see how it is on pH. If there's any ammonia in it, any nitrates. Some waters do actually have that. See how hard your water is. Just go to a pet store and see if they can test it for you. Most will do it for free. I believe Petco and PetSmart do it for free. And usually a lot of times small pet stores will do it for free as well these days. So get your water tested. And if your water is really bad coming out of the tap, go to a pet store and get DI water, or at least RO water. Even Walmart sells like DI and RO water. It's just going to be better for your fish. And then make sure you do treat it with different fish treating water chemicals. I don't know how else to say that. I'm sorry, that was kind of weird. But yeah, there's stuff like Replenish that will pretty much take your DI water and it'll add in essential things to the water to make it okay for your fish. And then there are things like then there are also chemicals that can make your pH go down to like a 7, or lower your pH or increase your pH if you need that to be. Yeah, that's probably a bit more than a basic beginner topic, but pretty much just make sure your water will be okay for your fish. Go in and get it tested, and if it isn't, go buy water from a pet store, especially a small pet store that can add in everything that needs to be added into to their DI water or RO water. And then when you're sure that your water is good, make sure the temperature is okay. You don't want to be adding in very cold water or way too hot water. Otherwise, you will have to let your heater warm up the water, or you'll have to let it sit there for a little bit to cool down. Especially if you're going to be adding in a fish right away. We'll come back to that in a moment. So I'm going to add in my water and I'll be back. Okay, so now you can see I've added water and then I've filled up all the way. I usually don't. Just kind of how I do my tanks. Sometimes I fill them up, but don't always. Alright, so like I said, so let's talk about adding in fish. if this is a brand new tank and you did not take a filter from an old tank, anything like that, so this is your very, very first tank, you have nothing to what's called seeding the tank, which again is taking like an old filter from another tank that's been up and running for a long time. You take that filter, put it in this tank, and that will pretty much cycle the tank a lot quicker. If you do not do that, and you really want to get a fish in your tank right away, what you can do, Walmart sells this. A lot of pet stores will sell this. It is Tetra Safe Start. And so here it cycles your new aquarium. This one does up to 20 gallons. And different sizes of this. This is the one from Walmart. Again, does up to 20 gallons. So a tank like this is you're going really probably use about half of the thing, and you'd be good. So what this does is it cycles your tank right away. That way you do not have to wait, and you can put fish in there right away. There's a whole bunch of these bacteria bottles out there. In my research, Tetra is the best one to use. I'm sure there's other ones that are okay to use as well, but to me, Tetra is going to be the best one. That's from my own research. Now, if you do not want to spend the extra money, I think that bottle is like $6 or $7 from Walmart. You can wait and you can cycle your tank. The lowdown of cycling a tank is waiting at least a month, sometimes longer, and you're waiting for your bacteria to, flourish in your tank. Start up your bacteria colony, your good bacteria colony, and let it do its thing in there. And then, so this is really a topic for another video because it's a decent topic. Main thing is though, cycling, what it does is gets rid of ammonia, nitrates, and then you're left with a little bit of nitrates in the end. If you really don't want to wait, just buy a bottle of this Tetra Safe Start, and it should cycle the tank for you. Just make sure you do not add in, if it's a bigger tank that can take more fish, do not add in too many things at one time. For a beta tank like this, you should be okay. But now do this at your own risk. Because, you are still putting a fish into a tank that is not actually cycled yet. The Safe Start will help start up the cycle and should help keep your fish alive. Again, this is a topic for another video. So it is a little bit risky to not actually cycle your tank before adding in fish, as it can actually kill your fish or do other things to them, mess them up in other ways if the tank is not cycled. So use the Safe Start or actually cycle your tank. Do it at your own risk, I guess. And then when your tank is ready to add fish into it, make sure you acclimate your fish. What this pretty much means is let your fish get used to their new tank's water. There's many ways to acclimate a fish. The way I usually do it is I take the fish. I know some people say this is wrong. It's just the way I've done it forever. Is take your fish, especially if they're in a bag or something, and float your fish in the tank for about 20-30 minutes. That lets them get used to the new tank's temperature. And then after that, add in some of the tank's water into the fish's bag. Wait another 10-15 minutes. Do it again. You can wait again another 10-15 minutes if you want. Then maybe do it one more time. And then you can take the fish out of the bag and put them into the fish tank. That is the basics of acclimating. Again, that could be another entire video. Again, there's many ways to acclimate a fish. And I'm sure some people will disagree with the way I just said. But that's the way I've always done it. Another way is what's called drip acclimating, which pretty much means you take the fish tank's water, the new fish tank's water, and drip it into the fish bag over extended amount of time. And that's supposed to be actually one of the safer ways to acclimate a fish, especially fish that are not as hardy as a beta is. So, alright, so now I'm going to turn on this tank, and we'll see how this one looks. Alright, so I plugged in my filter, now it is filtering. There's a little bit of a hum to it, but it's nice and quiet for the most part. There we go. I was trying to fix it, so I destroyed it. I was a little bit off center there. So I gotta fix that in a moment here. I'm hoping this was a basic enough video on how to set up a fish tank. If you guys have any questions, please do ask them in the comments below. Sorry if I kind of rambled on a little bit. or didn't make any sense in some parts of this video. Yeah, so if you have any questions at all, please ask in the comments below, and I will try to answer them as long as I see the questions. Again, I would recommend at least a 2.5 gallon tank. Have a heater if you need it. If the tank's water gets below, I'd say even below like 75, get a tank heater. They're not that expensive. Filters are good for bettas. Of course, decorations are going to be good for bettas. Make sure your water is good. Make sure your water is cycled before you add it in a fish. If you don't want to wait to cycle them, get the Tetra Safe Start that is dropped on the ground, or something similar that is a good, high quality bacteria bottle. Again, not all the bacteria bottles are made the same. Some of them are not as good as others. Again, Tetra is one of the best ones in my research. Alright guys, thank you all very much for watching. Hopefully this made some sense. Hopefully this will help people. Have yourselves a good one. See you all next time. Goodbye.